Welcome to a brand new podcast. Iain McLean is a writer and the author of TJ's War. David Blair is an actor and the narrator of the audiobook TJ's War. David and Iain have been listening to their readers and listeners and have decided to turn TJ's War into a movie. And since the story covers the entirety of World War II, the movie will cost at least $50 million. Will David and Iain succeed in their quest? Follow them in this podcast series. We're going to make a $50 million movie.
One of the things about this film is, I think I'm right in saying it was the first one to use real footage from the Second World War.
Oh,
in a cinema film, and so if you go to 1 hour 47:17, and we'll get stuffed by adverts again here, but we'll work our way through it.
well, before we go there, Quinn, what did you think of that scene?
Yes.
Well, I think you were right in what you said about it's very theatre. Obviously, when it started kind of panning in, kind of pulling closer to them, you kind of imagine it being a stage where they've now taken off those lights and they've just left it on with the lights. And, they had the scene lights, obviously everything on, basically that, the set dressing. And then as it got to that moment, they kind of pulled all of the information away from obviously what you were paying attention to, if you're like me and always looks at every single bit, and then obviously kind of focused in on them, which obviously it's very theatre. It's very kind of, you can tell that a lot of these people were maybe theatre actors or, had experience, or, the crews or anything like that had worked on productions like that before, and had obviously turned a lot of their actual knowledge and kind of experience from that into actually making this as well. It's just the way that they do things and the way that it works. It feels very like you're watching on a stage show as opposed to watching a movie.
And here's a question for you. I love this film, but I'm from a different generation. Do you think that films today, if they were in this style, people will go and watch them, or is it really, have we got to go for a different style altogether?
I think it's hard because I know what a lot of my generation, I'm going to talk on behalf of my generation, but not really. But like,
wait,
I know that
wait,
as
Quinn,
I
where
was,
do you fit? What generation are you speaking of? Just so we're clear.
I think I'm a millennial, but I might be not. I might be the next one. I don't know.
I think you might be zillennial. I think you're a mix, right? I think you're a
I mean,
zillennial.
I'm a 90s baby, but only really by a few years.
Yeah, I think
But,
you're on the cusp. Yeah.
Yeah, just sad. Not that you would tell. But yeah, I would say obviously growing up watching like my parents' movies that they like to watch, and obviously my grandparents' movies and things like that, and obviously knowing the kind of movies that my friends used to watch and stuff like that, I feel like we slowly get further and further away from this style of movie, and occasionally there's one that pops up which everyone kind of pines over, but then it's then quickly back to we get bored of it. I feel like we could do quite well with a movie of this style if we were the only ones at that time to be releasing a movie in this style. I feel like if a lot of things. So for instance, let me use the Marvel aspect for a second. The first Marvel movie that came out was Iron Man. Now Iron Man was incredible, everyone loved it, came with amazing kind of reviews, etc., etc., etc. It was that next stage along from the first Spider-Man movie that everyone really liked because of the comic style. But now here we are. What are we now? 16 years on? Maybe a little bit more? And we're now sat here kind of lethargic and like, this is just, it's a lot. It's too much. And it's the same with how Westerns went, obviously, but then you kind of, I can't remember the word, sorry. I have a really good point, but I can't remember the word. So
Were you going to
Quinn,
compare
cut
old
this out.
westerns with spaghetti westerns?
I was actually going to compare old westerns with Rango,
Oh yeah,
because basically, like westerns, you know, you went through westerns, you went through spaghetti westerns, and then there was like a real period where just westerns weren't so much of a thing. Like, you know, there was the occasional movie, but no one was really watching them. And then Rango hit, and it was taking old style of movie, which obviously everyone liked at that time and really kind of got behind, and then kind of making it more in line with today's, you know, styles and
Aesthetics.
film and aesthetics, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it really was, you know, there isn't another movie that looks like Rango. There isn't another movie that really kind of feels like Rango. We could be on for another movie like that, where we could take these older features and this older style and do it in a transformative approach to make us have something that really is quite unique. The same way that 1912, is it 1912, the one that's just one whole cut that's been very, you know,
1917.
1917, thank you. Where it's one whole cut.
1912, we were still very happy with the
It's why
German.
it was why I was like pausing, because I couldn't remember what it was, but I was like, 1912's too early. Why do I have this in my head?
Titanic.
I was just going to say, isn't Titanic 1911, 12?
1912.
But it's taking that war movie and putting a modern type of spin on it, where everyone likes a single shot and that kind of filmography. And then now it's something that everyone's like, oh my God, have you seen that movie?
Maybe by having long shots, we give the sense of the Second World War. So maybe we need long shots in our TV series to give that sense of the Second World War, as opposed to now. How's that?
I'm in agreement. I think it is and it's of its time. That was the film method that was popular, right, with the directors and all that good stuff. I do think that the long pregnant pauses adds to tension, which is a theatrical, you know, on stage kind of thing. To how do you build tension without, you know, I mean, heaven knows in this day and age, everyone likes CGI, right? So I do think you're right, Ian. I think having it, especially as a TV, you have the opportunity to have those pregnant pauses. And maybe that is where we can afford to have longer episodes. It's not filler episodes, but they are just more thought out. They call it slower pace, right? It's a slower pace show, but I think I love the idea of perhaps it crescendos into the peak.
Exactly. I was just, you took the words out of my mouth, because that's very much what happens with this film. It starts slowly, but you feel it speeding up and speeding up and speeding up. So what I'm taking you to now is about 20 minutes from the end. So 1 hour 47 in, if you can get there, 1 hour 47 and 17 seconds. We're in the thick of battle, and you're about to see a mixture of clearly studio sets and the real thing. And
you can tell it's real. Ooh, I can't wait. All right.
It's horrifying.
They're heading for the high squadron. Squadron forward still more. People, New Baker, and Charlie Force take the side attack to cover the real attack on the sun. Watch out for mass attacks. Aim 10 abreast.
I'm not gonna lie, you guys. I'm like getting emotional because you know that's real, and it's like if they didn't bail out in time,
A lot of
that's a
them
life
didn't go
lost.
that
I don't
time.
care what side you're on. That's a life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh, that I'm actually. Oh, I'm getting a little Damn it, Janet! You better not put this in. Oh my God, my heart just broke in those scenes.
Yeah, and as I was saying to you earlier, on the 1,000 bomber raids over Germany towards the end of the war, nearly, I think there's one statistic of 97 aircraft were shot down. 97 of these large aircraft were shot down in a single raid, and it's just horrifying what we've put young people through. And I really think if leaders of countries, so-called leaders of countries, would be put into these aircraft to experience that kind of thing, there'd be no war. Because it's horrifying.
I don't know. I think you're being very kind because there is a certain amount of psychopathy in our politicians. I don't think they would care because I don't think they have the ability to care. So you're being very kind.
Why? I think that we have politicians. Today certainly we have politicians who've never been in uniform or in any kind of active war situation. Strangely enough, apart from somebody like Putin, who was a member of the KGB and therefore at some time in the past he was a roughneck and, as I understand it from stories, quite a thug. But he has been in the trenches, which is why he is so dangerous in his current position, because he's much more brutal than the politicians he's up against, like Biden and Stammer in the UK and so on. He's a real street fighter, and these other guys are looking for gentlemanly conduct while sending their kids out to do stuff like this even now, and they have no idea what it's like to put their soldiers into harm's way in this manner. They think they do, but they've never experienced it for themselves, and so they really don't. So we're very close to the end of the film now. It's been mission after mission after mission for Gregory Peck as the command officer. Not only is he the command officer of the group, but he actually he flies the lead aircraft. He doesn't have to, but he likes to show the way. So he's been very successful, and he's gone on many missions by this point. But the war is continuing, and I think this depiction of what happens to him as he's about to board his aircraft is spot on, and whoever was providing consultation about what happens in these situations got it exactly right. I think it's a really interesting scene.
Okay.
So we can discuss it after you've watched it. This is Gregory Peck.
Oh, he's having a panic attack.
What's the matter, sir? I don't know. Are you sick, sir? Arms on the drawer. They won't work. You want me to take it? No, tell Gately to take it.
You see who's got him?
You take it.
Yeah, the same guy that.
He was calling Yellow much earlier.
Yeah.
Yellow anymore.
Get hold of that treasure. I'll take the lead ship.
He's saying tell Gately. Well, he is Gately. So Gregory Peck has got no idea who he is or where he is right now.
Where's my oxygen mask? Frank! Frank, come on, Frank! Come on, get in the jeep!
That's a crazy way to get on a plane.
That's how they did it.
Frank! Frankie! Stop it! Stop it! Right here, Frank, it's okay, it's all... Oh, tower!
And off they go. That's a dangerous stunt right there.
Yeah, it is.
We can't go! Frank, put it out there again! Stop them! Stop them! Stop them! We can't take it!
He's shouting, "Don't let these kids go off. Don't let them get hurt." His humanity is coming through, even though that's not who he's been portraying all the way through the film. It's deep within him to want to save his kids as he sees them.
I mean, not seeing the movie, not knowing. I'm assuming he had a panic attack, right? I mean,
Yeah.
something triggered him, and that just. I mean, just the fact that he couldn't rip.
It's PTSD.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Woo.
the thing is, this film was made in 1949, and people talk about PTSD and people talk about the Second World War as if they didn't know what PTSD
No.
was then. Well, they did. They experienced it. They could see it, and it was no secret. They went through hell, and I think when you're in war, you're going through hell. I just think it's got to be avoided, and we must work much harder than we do to avoid this in the future. It's shame on us that it's still going on.
Well, I think if we can make this impact, those scenes are really sharp and tight. When we make an movie, I could see where it would have the message would resonate I would like to think with the Gen Zs. I think there is a tendency towards like, can we not talk this out, right? Because I think there's that acknowledgement of mental health and trying to work things out way more than at least when you and I grew up, Ian. I mean, come on, man. Like, I remember as a kid getting in trouble and I'd be crying or whatever. And my mom and dad be like, "You're crying? Let me give you something to cry about." That was their level of discipline. Like, I can't imagine like a Gen Z kid taking it, I mean, come on now. But anyway, this was such a great run and I love the insights. I'm so glad I want to watch this movie now. Because I think Gregory Peck is a handsome man in that movie. But I think it's a very telling movie. Just the way you just showed those, knowing now that's real footage. Oh, I don't know if I can handle it again. Ooh, that almost made me cry. Maybe not. But okay, final thoughts, gentlemen, because we're going to have to wrap this up. Otherwise, we know we're going to be here all day. So, Quinn, what are your thoughts on this movie and where do you see TJ's War fitting in?
See, I have thoughts of obviously the way that we do the movie, and obviously moving on from some of the points we've kind of said earlier with regards to, creating something quite transformative. And it's this kind of style which I like, but if we made it look gorgeous, because I feel like that's the one thing that maybe disconnects me with a lot of older movies, is the fact that I've seen, if you did this kind of acting, this kind of thing, but made it look stunning or put it in a way that, it really drags you even further into it, I think you could really, capture an audience and capture a current audience as well, which is obviously what we want to do. We don't want to put something out there and everyone to just go, We'd prefer, obviously, if everyone did. And I feel like if we can have scenes like this and moments like this and kind of acting like this while also it looking stunning, like, Shogun and other such.
Oh my god, Mark is going to live that down.
Well, Mark will thank you for that.
Then obviously we'll, I think, as I say, we'll release something absolutely incredible.
First of all, where we are with TJ's War, the TV series, we're working on. We see it as 2 seasons. As you know, it's not just me working through this. We've got the guys in the background, and we're working through 2 seasons. First season's got 10 episodes. The second season's got 11, and it covers the entirety of the Second World War from the perspective of TJ. So it's not. I think this is a great film, but we don't spend very much time on aircraft with TJ. The episodes that TJ was involved in, most of them are hardly covered by literature or movies or TV series at all. And so I think it'll be a real eye opener. And I would really like it if it was in this kind of style, like I with some long scenes, because in the book that there are some long scenes of discussion, particularly between TJ, for example, and his between TJ and M, for example. So Stuart Menzies, who was in charge of MI6. So I think we can get fairly close to the style of this and the feeling of this in the TV series. And also, there is a view that, as well as a TV series, we should make a movie to go ahead of it, almost like a pilot. Things are going in the background. It's very exciting. 12 O'Clock High. The reason I know it's such a great film is when I went through officer training for the Royal Air Force back in the mid-70s, this film was actually part of our training, because the leadership which was shown by Gregory Peck, his style of leadership and his thinking throughout most of the film in terms of how to manage his men is what was encouraged for us. And that's quite funny, because this was an American film about a United States Air Force group, and yet the RAF, who have a very different sense, it's a very different style, we still look upon that style of leadership and say that's what we should be aiming for.
Well, I think you've summed it up really nicely. It's humanity, right? We're still humans at the end of the day. And as humans, we're going to feel emotions. And that awesome sense of responsibility of Gregory Peck's character, unemotional as he probably portrayed himself throughout the movie, unfortunately, he had to crack to feel that humanity within himself, right? So I could see where it's just a human story, I think, ultimately. The accents are all wrong. They're all American, and the costumes or all uniforms are all wrong. It's all American. But I think at the root of it all, we're all humans. And I think this is I'm so glad you picked this movie for us to review together, because I think it does give a little bit more clarity of any director that, we talk to say, hey, what do you envision of TJ's War? And if they tell us, oh yeah, I love Marvel comics, adventure movie style, we'll probably know very quickly they're not the director for us. Is that a fair assessment, guys?
I think that's exactly right.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Well,
we will talk all day long. So why don't we wrap up this episode of we're making a $50 million movie and TV show.
Bye, everyone.
To find out more about the book, visit tjswar.com. And to buy it, click on the Amazon link below. To accompany us on our journey, please subscribe to this podcast, because we're going to make a $50 million movie.